Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, Pride of Detroit on Twitter. Wow, I did that backwards. Just shows you how far that one has fallen. Live now on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit and on youtube.com/at Pride of Detroit. We're here and happy to bring back an old friend here. This one's going to be a bit of a shorter one. We're going to talk about some of the rule changes that are being proposed. We're going to be talking about what we expect from the ownership meetings, some other news for the Detroit Lions, but we're getting started on a very big and probably very scary topic. But first, I'm Chris Perfett, the adequate host, at Chris Perfett on Twitter, ready to just dominate this one as always. And joining me, as always, Jeremy Reisman, the fearless leader at Detroit Online. Jeremy's been gone for a little bit, enjoying some well-needed vacay, and he's back. He's still in parts unknown from the looks of it. He's doing the new YouTuber trend of holding your microphone without a pedestal. Let me guess. Oh, there is a tripod on that. It's just not working very well, apparently.
Yeah, I'm sitting in front of a desk where if it was on the desk, it would be way far away from me. But yeah, I'm in. I can tell people I'm in Florida. I'm in the Orlando area for the owners meetings coming up this week. They've landed the owners and the coaches, and we'll be speaking with a whole bunch of them starting Monday and Tuesday. And I'll get to go to some swanky party on Monday night, which is going to be weird and fun. But unfortunately, not a lot of fun to be had in the week I was gone. So guess it's time to just talk about it.
No, you picked a particularly ominous week to go on vacation. We want to address the situation on Cameron Sutton. It's been about 4 days now. The situation developed extremely rapidly. We didn't want to really touch the situation until we had more information, maybe to see that the situation had something of a resolution. Unfortunately, it is still not with a resolution. Cameron Sutton is still at large in the state of Florida with a warrant out for his arrest. I think police picked up his license plate on one of the Florida scanners, but so far he still hasn't turned himself in. Nobody has seen him. It is a situation that is very scary, to say the least, and we wanted to wait for this to develop a little bit more before we got to any ramifications for the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, again, there hasn't been one, but the Lions did announce on Thursday that they have released Cameron Sutton. We should probably start, Jeremy, on the issue at hand of why Cameron Sutton was released, what kind of trouble he is in the state of Florida, what he is currently fleeing a warrant for. We do not shy away from big topics like these before. We have covered when players and coaches have had legal troubles and allegations. The one against Cameron Sutton is some of the most serious that you can really have out there right now.
Yeah, no doubt. The charge itself is domestic battery by strangulation. There's no ID currently given for the victim. Only an announcement that this person did suffer injuries that are similar to obviously that charge. Cam Sutton apparently has been ongoing in a custody battle, paternity battle for years, it sounds like. And I'm taking some of this from the Detroit News and Free Reporting, but their case was as active as March 6th, which was the day before the alleged abuse took place. They were scheduled for a Zoom meeting, a Zoom hearing. Final judgment in the case had been made in February, but there was another hearing on March 6th. So you can't say for certain whether these two things are related, but it's just I guess it portrays that Cam Sutton has been having legal issues dating back to his Steelers days. This is something that has been going on, custody battles and things like that, going back to his Steelers days. And so paints a little bit bigger picture of what's going on here, but we don't really want to speculate too much here. All that we know is the charge and that he's still out there ducking the police.
Ducking it for a little bit. So I guess the actual incident took place on March 7th that Hillsborough County Police in Florida, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department responded to, and that they were dealing with this, but for whatever reason, a warrant was placed out on Wednesday, March the 20th. I think I have that day of the week right.
That was, to be clear, that's when they announced the warrant on social
Yes.
media. The warrant had been out prior to that, but that was kind of their last, like, they hadn't been able to reach him, so they threw it
Mhm.
out on social media.
Yeah, this was the "Do you know this man?" tweet, and I think that's when Lions media, Detroit media, and the Detroit Lions themselves became
Right.
aware of the situation. In that Cameron Sutton was apparently on the run from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, and that's where we still stand to this
Yep.
moment. Nobody has located Cameron Sutton as of the recording of this podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern, March 24th, Sunday. I don't know if that situation is going to change anytime soon. I know he had another house, or a house that he hasn't been back to. They released a license plate for a Jeep Grand Wagoner that Sutton is supposedly driving again, that's shown up on scanners, but we don't know if he's driving it or where he is. Uh, we don't know his mental state, his physical state right now, nothing, and that is why this is so serious and scary, and why I've just wanted to see him safely back, because no matter what the charges are, you at least want to be represented in a court of law, and no matter the guilty or not, I don't want to see a man dead over all this. By his hand, by the police's hand, by anyone's hand.
Yeah. No, I think it's already a tragic enough situation. You know, we're talking about families being broken up, probably in ways that are irreparable. You just hope that there's some sort of happy ending that can be made of this really, really tough situation.
Just a resolution without bloodshed is all I'm really asking for at this point.
Right.
So that's the situation. It's very difficult. I understand, however, there were Lions fans antsy for more information. We usually kind of, it's a bit more of a rarity these days to see a player wanted and missing for this long. Again, by our count, 4 days since it was known that the warrant was out for Cam Sutton, and still really nothing that we have to show for it. However, that did not stop the Detroit Lions. They were gathering information, or at least trying to. But I think, Jeremy, no matter what the situation is on the aggravated battery domestic violence charge, running from the police and having a warrant out for your arrest is something that obviously doesn't fly in the NFL. And I believe that the Lions on Thursday cut Cameron Sutton.
Yep. We still don't really know what information the Lions had. Maybe they only have the information that we had that led them to this decision. We'll probably find out a little bit more about that here at the owners' meetings. I imagine that is something that's going to be asked of Brad Holmes, maybe Rod Wood, Dan Campbell as well. We'll hear from all three of those guys, maybe Sheila as well this week, and get more insight there. But yep, he is released, and I can talk about the finances really quick because I know a lot of people are interested in the finances, and we don't have all of the information regarding the finances in terms of what the Lions are going to be able to recoup and what they aren't. But what we do know via the transaction wire is that they gave him a post June 1st release, and the very important part of that, at least when it comes to the immediacy, is that his contract is still fully on the books. The Lions are getting no cap relief right now, even though he's no longer on the team, because a June 1st release means that contract stays on the books until June 1st.
Yes.
The sticking point here that I think a lot of people are interested in is that his $10.5 million salary that he was due this year was fully guaranteed. Now, seems like the most likely thing that the Lions will be able to recoup. In fact, Pro Football Talk is already reporting that his guarantee has already been invalidated. So that means as soon as the contract is off the books, that $10.5 million will be off the books and will quote unquote be savings for the Lions. The other aspect of the June 1st release means that all of his prorated salary signing bonus, which $8.72 million is still left in the signing bonus proration from what he signed, which was like an $11 million signing bonus, all of that would normally accelerate to this year when you cut him. So the Lions would take that $8.72 million cap hit this year. But when you make it a post June 1st release, it's essentially adding a void year. So three of those signing bonus prorations will hit next year, and only one will hit this year. So theoretically speaking, if the Lions get this $10.5 million salary non-guaranteed, They get that back. They'll only be on the hook for 2.18 million of his prorated signing bonus this year, 6.54 million next year for that total of 8.72 million. Now, they could also recoup some of that. That is a much longer process. It's what they did with Calvin Johnson. It's what they did with Barry Sanders in terms of trying to get some of that signing bonus back. Except obviously this is a much different situation.
This is a legal situation, right?
Yes, this is not early retirement. This is a legal situation, but that is an ongoing battle that sometimes takes years. So the Lions are buying themselves sometimes by having that salary cap hit later in 2025 instead of 2024, but the long and short of it is that the Lions are probably almost certainly going to get the 10.5 million guaranteed salary back, which means only count 2.18 million against the cap this year. But all of that doesn't happen until June 1st. For now, he still has the normal 12 point whatever million cap hit on the books, and that's going to stay on the books all the way through the draft.
So I think some fans hear that and wonder what the league can do about that dead cap money. Is there anything, is that something maybe we might see? You mentioned the owners meetings, and I know you think that'll come up. Is that the topic specifically to come up? Is what do we do about the dead cap money that was prorated? Because of the situation, can that get taken off the books completely? Was there even anything in the contract that would allow anything like that to be taken off, or is that even legal by NFL standards?
Yes, but typically it takes until after there's legal, like the legal process typically has to play out first. Really, the only thing the league can do right now is the guaranteed salary stuff. They can make it so they void the guarantee in his salary this year, which like I said, Pro Football Talk says that has already been done. I haven't seen it reported anywhere else, so I can't say for certain that 10.5 million salary is no longer guaranteed. But remember, again, the 10.5 million salary remains on the books until that June 1st cut. And then at that point, we'll see, I guess, whether that salary was guaranteed. If it was guaranteed, then it stays on the books. It's guaranteed money. If it wasn't guaranteed, if they get the guarantee out of the contract, then it just comes off the books and the Lions are no longer on the hook for it.
I want to take a quick break here, just kind of to gather our thoughts a little bit. On the other side of this, I do want to talk about kind of where this leaves the Lions from a roster situation on Cameron Sutton. They've been busy, of course, in free agency with cornerbacks, re-signing Emmanuel Mosley, Amik Robertson, Carlton Davis, but I still think there's no avoiding the impact of Cameron Sutton's sudden and very quick disappearance from the roster. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the Pride Detroit PODcast, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some stuff. As Jeremy mentioned, he is down in sunny Florida to go to the ownership meetings. Big man is going in big places and going to see all the whores divorce. Did I even say that right?
No.
Not even. How am I supposed to say that? Come on, tell me. That's
Ordures?
one of those hors d'oeuvres. Really? That's how you spell hors d'oeuvres?
It's yes, it's not whore divorce.
I thought hors d'oeuvres was a different word. Oh my god. Okay. You know what's not an hors d'oeuvre is the Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. It's the jerky that fuels your Detroit Lions and the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Righteous Felon Jerky and meat sticks are available to Lions players at the training facilities at Allen Park. Each 2-ounce bag of jerky has 16 to 20 grams of protein. Each stick has 8 grams. I'm making Jeremy lose it right now. I'm glad I can at least bring a smile to his face after these last 10 minutes. If it's good enough for the Lions, it's going to be good enough for you too. Righteous Felon is from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and they use locally sourced, all-natural black Angus beef, prize themselves on superior quality, revolutionary branding, and unique flavors that go beyond the stereotypical jerky offering. And we're going to use our powers and we're going to reach out to Righteous Felon and see if we can get a flavor made for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, because damn it, do they and our friend Ryan Matthews, a proud OU alum, deserve one. But until that time, you can go to righteousfelon.com and use the promo code POD15 at checkout. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code POD15 at righteousfelon.com. Listen, folks, we love this stuff. We eat it all the time. It's good. Jeremy had plenty on the flight down. It got him very dehydrated. He had to drink a lot of water, but it's fine. It's you need salt in your body too.
If the Grizz would have had a little Righteous Felon, they probably would have made their free throws down the stretch.
Yeah, just feed more of that to Golke.
That's right.
Yeah, make more threes. man, what a story. POD15, righteousfelon.com. We'll be right back.
Was that real?
No, just fantasy.
You really didn't know that was how Ordures was spelled?
No, I didn't.
That's
I
amazing.
didn't. That's one so here's the thing. I've heard people say hors d'oeuvres, and I have said hors d'oeuvres myself, but I have never had to write down hors d'oeuvres, and I've never had.
You've
and
never
when I
made
saw
that
it,
connection, you've
and
seen that word before too.
Yes,
you just have never made the connection that was hors
yes,
d'oeuvres.
God, yes.
That's amazing.
Shut up. You have made similar mistakes.
Like that sort of stuff happens all the time. Right? Like you know a word, you just don't know how it's spelled, or you see a word and you see the word because you've read it a million times, but you've never pronounced it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I apologize to those who are complaining about the ice in my cup. I do have some bamboo straws on the way, so I can enjoy my tiki drinks while we do these podcasts from here on out. Ors Devourers, thank you, sir.
Thanks everybody who said they're happy to see me back. I am happy to be back. There is a certain part of me that is not complete when I'm not working, which is kind of a sad thing to admit, but I love this job. I love this beat. I didn't particularly love missing last week in particular because of all the Cam Sutton news. I would have loved to have just a regular quiet week and not have to at least make sure everything is being taken care of in the manner that it should be. And not that I ever had a single ounce of doubt in Eric, and he handled it like a pro, but that's something that I obviously have to overlook from afar when it happens, just to be sure.
Yeah. No, instincts kick in and everything. And, we had a lot of conversations talking about how to cover it, what to cover it. I know some people were very pissy on social media. Let me put it clearly. We don't fucking care. We don't care. Like, you can misrepresent us all you want to other reporters as far as when we decide to address certain parts of the Cam Sutton story. We don't fucking care. This is how we've always dealt with stuff. We like to think we try to deal with things with respect, and not just because that you just want the sports side of things. And I'm not trying to pick a fight, although I've been picking fights in your absence quite a bit, apparently. But, like, I do want to stress it a little bit in that, like, this is how we want to handle this story. And we're not going to change anything about that for any reason. Because it's tricky. And we've done tricky situations before in the past. Because when sports stop being just sports, you have to handle it very differently than you usually handle it.
Yeah. And I want to be completely transparent here. I'm not used to that kind of reporting. No one on our staff is. It's difficult. It's out of our bread and butter. But that just makes at least me in particular handle it with so much more care. And like I'm not racing to be first with stories like this. I want to be as accurate and as careful and as meticulous as possible, because it's not in my wheelhouse. But I understand the importance of accuracy on stories like this, because you cannot get things wrong.
No, and
like even the tweet from the whatever, the police station,
the sheriff's office.
They got the charge wrong on the initial tweet. Like that's something I can't afford to do.
Right.
And journalists get buried for stuff like that. And I don't know. Yeah,
especially in this day and age where if you give anyone a reason to doubt you as a journalist, like, journalists are wonderful, wonderful targets for people to just be blowhards about, to assume the worst of. Just look at Kim Mulkey right now, who is already threatening to sue the Washington Post if they dare report about her, because she knows people will just get up and they have certain beliefs in their mind about what a journalist is, and have decided journalists are all as one scum. So you have to dance a little bit around it. You have to be fearless about it. I've had some training to do this kind of stuff. As people know, though, I don't write a ton, and I am also incredibly busy with my own other jobs on the side. So, like, sometimes me and Jeremy will have conversations about ethics in journalism, but, like, that's we've got a lot of other people working in the wings too.
Yeah. Yep. We have to be really careful about it. And I don't know. It was just it was a really shitty Wednesday when it all went down, and I understand like I understand what social media is, and I understand because I have this inclination too. Whereas when something stressful or bad happens, you fall back to humor, and I do that a lot too. I do like it.
Mm.
It's a defense mechanism. I get it, but I like I was not in the mood to see any sort of joking about this situation. I'm still not, to be completely
Right.
honest. I don't think this. I think there are certain things where you don't do that, but I understand what social media is. It's everyone trying to be their own stand-up comic, and I understand, like I said, the defense mechanism thing. But it's just I had like I was spending a lot of time that on vacation on social media just because I wanted more information about
Mm.
it. I wanted to help out the site, and I just at some point I had to just I tweeted, I threw my phone in the ocean. I wish I really had, but um
Yeah.
it's a hard time to be online when a story like that is developing, because then you got people, the worst scum in the world, making up fake stories. You have people presuming someone that is not dead necessarily dead, and like all that sort of stuff, and then the other people are just like making jokes about, like they're throwing Cam Sutton's performance on the field into this story in some way, and it's just
Yeah, and
I don't know, it's
I just don't
disgusting.
like when things are demanded of us either. And a lot of that demand was very quickly to be like, well, what's the cap situation?
Right.
What's the roster situation? I'm like, there are humans involved here. I know we want to go back to our little playground of sports, but that's what it is. It's a playground.
Yeah.
And when serious stuff like this comes up in the playground, I'm sorry, the playground stuff kind of takes a back seat. There is a fire right next door. You can wait a second before building a sandcastle. So that might make some people upset and decide to misrepresent us to other people, but no, no. Anyway, that's enough trying to be serious. Thank you to those
Yeah.
praising both my speech problems and my speech screw ups and my new obsession with tiki mugs. I got another one in here, so
Nice.
I'm gonna keep collecting these, and I
You
keep
look,
coming. What's up?
I was gonna say, you look like the one on vacation drinking out of tiki mugs, not me.
I've just had a new obsession with it. I haven't had rum in forever, so I started making Mai Tais, and now I'm drinking something called a Kingston Club.
There you go.
Should you be recording this? I am. Thank you, by the way, for the reminders from people to record. Yes, I did hit record before we began. Yes.
You want to get into some alerts and then
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're not. I know
like
it's
it,
late
yeah.
for you guys on the East Coast. Out here on the West Coast, I'm dealing some storms, so we will get to alerts and then get answer a couple questions and then get right back into it. And I will refund the Zazu cameo because again, Jeremy's on vacay.
I was gonna pull up a picture of him that I'm getting from my aunt. I don't know if that counts.
Anyway, we kick it off
Or my
with Jerry.
cousin.
Oh, ooh, look at that! Look at that little boy.
I keep getting a bunch of pictures.
Hell yeah, that'll count as the Zazu cameo.
There you go. With
Ah.
the other dog laying on the bed that he's been told he has to stay out of the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
He's being very clingy, so he's staying by the barrier.
By the barricade. Yeah, I specifically got this one because of the color, because Honolulu blue, and me, Morgan, and Miko had a conversation about chalices, specifically game day chalices and pimp chalices. So anyway, Jerry Taylor subscribed on YouTube. This is again a reminder that we now simulcast not just on Twitch but on youtube.com/@prideofdetroit. You can find our videos there. You can also find the work of Morgan and Miko, who are doing breakdowns every week.
Excellent work.
over on YouTube's on the Pride of Detroit YouTube.
They have a great one on DJ Reader up right now, and I imagine they're probably going to do one for every one of the Lions free agent signings. So go check it out there.
Yep, and also check out our podcast we did with Mike Sent. I'm going to say his name wrong again.
Don't ask me.
Mike Sands, our Bengals friend, who did a great podcast with me and Ryan on DJ Reader as well. Zern Baby Zern gets us kicked off on Twitch using his Amazon Prime subscription. Given Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription a month to give to a Twitch channel of your choice. We will appreciate if you use it on us. He's been with us for 36 months. Excuse me. Says 3 years. I'm losing track of all these Twitch babies. 3, 4. Jeez.
9 times 4, 36.
Pumping him
baby.
out.
Times table.
J-Man Jr. 76, been with us for 34 months. Junk Trunk 79, using Prime to be with us for 25 months. Ultimate Punisher has resubscribed using Prime. He's been here 3 months, saying, bring back Reynolds.
I mean, it's interesting. He took the Baltimore Ravens visit on Friday and didn't walk away with a contract. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not closing the book on a Josh Reynolds return just because he went on a visit. I think the Lions are doing what they've done with a lot of their free agents. They did it with John Kaminsky. They've done it with a couple of the ones that ended up coming back. They're saying, hey man, we have a budget. We'd love to have you back, but we totally support you going out and getting whatever you think you're worth. So go ahead and look for it. If you don't find what you're looking for, please come back.
Yep. All right, moving on, we have Captain James C. Kirk dropping us 50 bits, saying DPJ is wide receiver 3. We'll see.
I mean, right now, listen, I teased it before free agency, saying that I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has a chance to return because they invested not significant draft capital, but a 6th round pick, and I just don't think it would be Brad Holmes' style to invest that for a half-year rental on a guy that they ended up barely using. I mean, when they did something similar with the Browns guy, Trinity Benson, they ended up keeping Trinity Benson for 2 more years to see if they could finally get something out of him. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 800 yards like 2 years ago. I think with a little bit more, chemistry building with Jared Goff in a full offseason, like I think there's a chance he could be a solid 3.
Okay, moving on. Hard Sticks 11, been with us for 15 months, saying Jeremy is the plague. Bring out your dead. Shame, shame, shame. I think I'm the plague. Yeah. I was left in charge of podcast stuff.
This is in reference to the Oakland game yesterday. I have not watched a single minute of March Madness.
Right, okay.
And I tuned in late in the second half of that one and watched. Actually, I tuned in right after right before they took the lead for the first time in the game. So when I tuned in, they immediately took the lead and then lost it.
Jeremy jinxing March Madness teams and a patch jinxing the Red Wings. Very interesting times here. Shout out to Oakland, though. Great story. Even our own Ryan Matthews didn't believe that they could beat Kentucky. I certainly didn't with all the NBA talent they have on that squad. But really, great story. Greg Campy has been coaching Oakland longer than you or I, Jeremy, have been alive.
That's pretty old.
He took that job in 1984. I can't imagine doing that job that long.
Yeah. But, imagine if we're doing this podcast in 30, 40 years.
Don't. We'll see if I'm even alive in 30 or 40 years.
Which is not going to be around in 40 years.
Question.
I love you, Twitch, but you're not going to be around.
How many people do you think at the onset, outside of the great state of Michigan, knew that Oakland University was in Oakland County and not Oakland, California?
2%, if that. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's what is crazy about college basketball, is it puts these colleges on the map. And I say on the map, but I don't know where on the map. I don't know where Villanova is. I don't know where
Pennsylvania.
Georgetown is. I should know
really?
All these things.
You don't know where Georgetown is?
Pennsylvania?
DC. It's one of the most famous DC university institutions.
It's my Ordures. I don't know.
You know what? Fair. I can't tell you where Duquesne is or even how to pronounce it. You know what? Duquesne? Yeah, like trust me, I've heard that word butchered a lot worse than I butchered hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
Duquesne.
So, yeah. I think Duquesne. Duquesne sounds right.
No, but like I'm saying how I've heard people butcher it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Ordures University.
Ordures Devours University. Where is Grand Canyon University? I want to say that's got to be in Arizona, right?
That seems like a good bet.
Yeah, Phoenix. Okay.
Duquesne is in Pittsburgh.
That's not even, again, how you spell Duquesne, which is just proving that this is a menace. Anyway, I promised I wouldn't take as long as Jeremy to get through these. It's in the Grand Canyon. Thank you.
Not easy, is it?
Michael T. Dunn, 37 months total with us. Hashtag off-season mode engaged. Uncle Indigo for 47 months says he is closing on 50 months subbed. Emgo Korg, 35 months. Yvets, 19, 34 months. Swagakazi fan, 1993, a full year, thank you. And he says, I am a JPJ stan, but what would your reaction be if they traded up to 12 to take another what? If they traded up to 12 to take another wide receiver versus if they traded up to 12 for a tackle?
I don't love the idea of trading up since they don't have as much draft capital in the.
You've never
in the
liked
season
trading
where
up,
they,
though.
I've never. That is true. But in terms of position, I think I'd rather don't let Taylor Decker see this, but I think I'd rather them see it do with a tackle. I think you don't have as good of value at that position the later in drafts you go. I think you'd still find a skillful, a starting capable wide receiver late into pretty much every draft. Like, it has just become such a deep position every year at the NFL draft that jumping into the top 15 to me doesn't seem like a fine strategy. Now, I say this, of course, knowing that the Lions did exactly that 2 years with Jameson Williams, but perhaps that wasn't the greatest of moves necessarily. I'm not trying to bury the kid's career, but I just think in general, if you're trading up, a tackle is kind of a smart position to get, just because tackles draft, like the hit rate of highly drafted tackles is extremely high. The hit rate of highly drafted wide receivers also high, but you can also, the hit rate of wide receivers doesn't have as precipitous of a drop off as offensive tackle does.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about any specific guys up there because, again, I'm still trying to figure out the top. I'm not even paying that much attention to the top 15 of the draft. Maybe I should, but.
Well, I think especially this year, I look at the top 11 or 12 and I see a bunch of very intractable teams. Like, probably the teams I could probably see move the most is probably Tennessee, Jets, and maybe Denver. But, like, the rest of those teams are kind of desperate for big time pieces.
Yeah.
Like Chicago could maybe move around at 9, but like Chargers are probably going to be in a prime position to take whatever top piece they want once, Marvin Harrison Jr. and the quarterbacks come off the board. Washington and New England, Washington sounds like they're shopping the pick, but I don't believe them. I absolutely don't believe them. Atlanta, Chargers, Giants, Minnesota, who seems like they are a candidate to try to trade up, if anyone. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're definitely trading up.
Yeah. Same with Vegas. Vegas might need to trade up too, but like, there's a lot of desperate teams at the top of the board that it seems fairly intractable that a lot of them would want to trade down with someone like the Detroit Lions all the way to 29.
Sure.
Yeah.
Accumulate draft capital.
It's good, but I think some of those teams are looking at the immediate future because there are some of them with jobs on the line. So,
true.
Okay. Kneecapper 21, been with us for 13 months. Bougie 8233, 16 months in a row, 21 months total. And the respected Madman, been with us for 36 months. We're caught up.
No, 3 years.
This absolutely needs some rum in it.
There was a question here from Rakan is nice, saying, is the media talking to Campbell or Holmes tomorrow? I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to be giving out full schedules, but I will tell you that the AFC coaches are talking tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to be there and talk to some of the coaches that were coaching new Lions players. So, like, get the thoughts on Zach Taylor's thoughts on DJ Reader. Who else? Who's the Raiders head coach? Talk to him about Amik.
Antonio Pierce.
He's already had some pretty amazing things to say about it. Amik Robertson. So I'll try to pull him aside and talk to him. The only Lions person who we're currently scheduled to talk with tomorrow is Rod Wood. That's supposed to happen a little bit later in the day, but that of course means news about the uniforms, because that's probably going to be the first questions he's asked about, and seeing if maybe we get a date on that release, which I expect to be in the next month, because I think it would be smart to drop those before the draft, but we haven't even had 100% confirmation that they're coming this year. I'm of the belief that they are. Mm-hmm. Pretty positive on that, for several reasons. Some I can't divulge, but yeah, we'll get more information on that. So expect Rodwood tomorrow, but we'll see. Those are always kind of ever changing, but other than that, we will talk to Dan Campbell for certain on Tuesday, unless he leaves for some reason. I know Brad Holmes wasn't in the GM picture this morning, this afternoon, whenever it happened. I've not been told that he's not going to be there though, and we are expected to talk to him on Tuesday. But again, things come up, so maybe he was late, maybe he's out at a pro day, maybe he was doing something else, didn't land till later, whatever. But at this point, there's no expectation. I've not been told, and I'm pretty sure I would have been texted by now if there was an expectation that Brad Holmes would not be talking to the media this week. We did miss Dan a couple years ago, but sounds like we're going to talk to everybody.
You always forget to put something away sometimes. I left my bag of ice out on the counter.
Oops.
Yeah. It's a big enough bag, it's not going to all melt, but still, like, I had to just quickly rush. What else is there to talk about before we get back into it? I don't think we're going to hit on L'Jarius Sneed at all.
No.
I think that was kind of a big question if the Lions would have traded for him. What was the...
it only cost him a third and a swap of sevenths to get him, but it's next year's third. It's not even this year's third.
Right.
But then it cost him 4 years, 72 or whatever it was. 19 million a year on a 4-year deal, and like something like 55 million guaranteed. So like almost 3/4 of that entire contract guaranteed, which is a lot. It's I think by guarantees that was the most expensive contract a corner has signed. So that undoubtedly that was the sticking point for the Lions. And we know the way that they operate, they don't tend to give external free agents or external trade acquisitions that big of an extension, that big of a contract. So I think that's probably why the Lions were out on that and more in on a guy like Carlton Davis, that yes, he had a 1-year expensive contract, but he's only on the books for 1 year. Technically 2 now because they added a void year and all that. But those are the kind of big swings that we haven't seen the Lions make. The biggest in that vein that they've made so far, Cam Sutton. So that shows you the risks of moves like that. And now you don't want to use that as a normal example. It's obviously not a very not normal occurrence, but
yeah. What else is there to talk about? The Red Wings continue to suck. Michigan State is still in the tournament. Oakland is not.
Michigan State is no longer in the tournament.
Oh, did they? Wait, what happened?
They lost yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
to North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. I thought they had. Oh, that's right. Okay, I confused them with someone entirely different. Do not mind me. I am an idiot. Tigers starting as this coming week.
That means we have one more week to be optimistic about them.
I like the rotation this year. I know they just sent Manning down to Toledo. However, I feel good about it. I will also say this. I'm not going to be able to travel to Detroit to see them in any games, but if anyone is late in the season in around San Diego when the Tigers play the Padres, I'll be going back down to Petco Park probably a couple times this year because I see a friend down there. So if you're at Tigers Padres, hit me up.
Are the Tigers in town the week of the draft?
That is a fantastic question. Let me pull up their schedule right now.
Oh, looks like they might be at the Rays.
Oh, that'd be unfortunate. Although probably also
they'll be at
understood.
Home on Friday, it looks like.
Home on Friday, so they'll be around for day 2 then. Yeah, it looks like they're...
Game. That'd be a fun little doubleheader. You go watch the Tigers in the afternoon and then go nightcap rounds 2 and 3 of the draft.
Looks like they'll be hosting Kansas City.
Yep.
It should be a good one and a winnable one.
Red Wings playoff game 2. Well, RGA, not so sure about that.
Yeah, we have to. This has been a fairly historic collapse happening here.
It's sad.
Almost very entirely tied. Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, I'm hoping Larkin returning helps at least a little bit.
Yeah, it's very funny how close it's been tied to this patch on the jersey as well.
One game, right? Since dumb patch.
Yeah.
Don't need that bad uniform juju right before the Lions are about to drop theirs.
I'm going to refund the J-Dubs Your Ruby cameo. He's in my bedroom right now. I do not want to pull him out of there.
Dustin, we're trying. We're really trying.
Yeah.
We need an event planner. We're bad at those. I'm not closing the door on that yet, but I was hoping we'd have plans secured by now. So
yeah,
something I'm going to work on this upcoming week.
Yeah, I might have to probably. I'll probably not be there myself at this point, but I will still be running the live stream. So, but we'll talk. Me and Jeremy will talk off.
Cards on the table. We're trying to have a live draft POD cast like that Tuesday, like a draft preview show. I obviously can't be a part of things that are happening on the day of the draft because I'm going to be in Allen Park. Unfortunately, not on the grounds.
And I like to be live, and I am preparing a whole guest list on my own that Jeremy doesn't even know about right now for the draft as well. But anyway, I'm sorry, Jeremy, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to... Me and SB Nation talked about this back in October, and then they essentially said, like, we're not going to do it. And so just the POD staff is trying to throw something together, and we've been talking about it for 2 months now. And we couldn't find we couldn't find the venue we wanted.
One of the venues I think we had a really good in with was suddenly, I think they were in the midst of changing ownership.
Right. So
which slammed the door completely in our face on that one.
Yeah. Either way, trying to make it happen the Tuesday before the draft. So if you're coming into town, if you're already in town, maybe clear that afternoon/evening just in case. But we're still not close to announcing at this point. So,
and for those of you who aren't in Detroit or won't be able to go to Detroit, we will still obviously have the Twitch and YouTube live stream probably all 3 days this year.
There you go.
And expect to see some new faces. Expect to see some old faces. I know me and Kent will be. I will extend the invitation to Kent Lee Platty, our old friend Math Bomb, and we will both. We have both promised to basically lose our shirts when if the Lions draft Christian Haynes guard UConn.
You're gonna get kicked off Twitch.
Oh, sure.
Better.
I'll put up censor bars. I'll put up censor bars before we do it.
Just tassels. Tassels are fine.
I would prefer the censor bars. I would genuinely prefer the censor bars. Yeah, some new faces. There's been a couple of new guests that I've wanted to have. I was hoping to get one this week, but my schedule just did not allow it. Well, I've been wanting to put me and Jeremy talk about it quite a bit about kind of the people I know that are a little bit different, and I'd like to bring in some more people, especially around draft night, if it is possible to have people around draft night. So, anyway.
All right, we should probably hop into the second segment here.
Yeah, I was debating making another drink before then, but there's still enough in this one, and so I'm going to drink.
I'm probably going to have to bounce right after the second segment because I have to be on the road at 6:30 tomorrow morning.
No, that's fine. I need to be in bed in like about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
I have another hyper early work day ahead of me, so
plastic surgery.
All right. So we'll talk.
Roster impact of Cam Sutton and a little bit of owners meetings.
Yes. Okay. And do you have any of the do you have any thoughts on any of the like rule changes stuff that's kind of come up? I don't even know if there's anything new that's kind of cropped up. I do know that it was announced today.
The kickoff rule and the hip drop tackle are kind of the two big ones, but we have to see if they're going to actually get accepted by the coaches and owners, which might happen tomorrow.
I mean, Lions. So we can talk about that during the owners preview then,
Yeah.
because there is a Lions connection to at least one of them.
Yeah, Lions proposed a bunch, but yeah.
Pride to Detroit PODcast. Let's talk a little bit more about Cam Sutton before we move on to some other news that we have for the podcast. We've talked about his cap situation right now. We do need to talk about the roster. As much as the Lions have been active in free agency with their cornerback rooms, bringing in Carlton Davis on a trade, bringing in Amik Robertson, excuse me. Yeah, sorry, I was blanking on the name for a second. And re-signing Emmanuel Mosley. It's something where they've kind of. I know some people have a certain vision of Cam Sutton, or don't think that his loss is anything more than negligible, given how he was playing down the stretch. But as far as I'm concerned, this was still the Lions' CB1 or CB2 before anything was really said or done, before the draft, before any of this thing. And it leaves the Lions down a virtual starter in a bit of a precarious hole. Emmanuel Mosley has to come back from an injury. Carlton Davis has had some injury history himself. So it's not a great situation right now. I mean, Amik Robertson on the roster as well. Brian Branch you can kick out to corner. But after that, you're talking about some players that I don't know if they'll still be on the roster at some point here when we get to August, including Stephen Gilmore and Khalil Dorsey. It is a precarious situation that has made the situation from corner more precarious for the Lions. And I guess the question is to Jeremy, where do we really go from here? Are the Lions still going to be active in free agency? Are there any even scraps of free agent cornerbacks left that they can go after? Or are they just going to have to admit that in this case, they might at some point have to draft for need in the 2024 NFL entry draft?
Yeah, it's a tough question because, like you said, I think a lot of people were hoping that the addition of Carlton Davis as your CB1 moves Cam Sutton to your CB2, and then Cam Sutton plays better as a CB2 because a lot of people believe that's kind of where his talent was anyways. We won't really ever get to know that. I do like Carlton Davis as the team CB1. I think that's a good move. I think that's puts them at least at an average CB1, which is something the Lions haven't had since I should say Darius Slay was in town. Now, in terms of your CB2, you kind of have two half measures, right? You have Amik Robertson, who is probably best served as your CB3 coming off the bench in case of injury, but he has plenty of starting experience and has been up and down. He'll fight out there. I would put him kind of on par in talent as a guy like Jerry Jacobs, a guy who fights like hell, is going to put a ton of effort out there, is going to make some plays here and there, but is also going to be mistake prone. His physicality gives him a certain ceiling. I mean, he's a small dude, and so he's not someone you really want out there every snap, but if he's on your bench coming out, you feel pretty good about that. And then you have Emmanuel Mosley, which is the other half measure, like you said, coming back from the ACL. We're hoping he's ready by the beginning of the season, but you never really know. So, yes, I would say the Lions are in the market now. I wouldn't say they're in a great position at cornerback. I think they're improved from where they are last year, but the depth is thin. The top tier talent is thin. The issue then, though, is can they? I do think there are some talented guys out there that can help them, right? We could go back to the well of doubling up your Gilmores. Bring on Stephon Gilmore to pair with Stephen Gilmore. Xavier Howard is out there, although he has some sketchy things in the past that might not work if you're trying to replace a guy who is currently on the run. Adoree Jackson, J.C. Jackson, Patrick Peterson, if you want to go the veteran route. But again, the issue here is that you're carrying around Cam Sutton's contract right now. You have the June 1st release, so you're not going to have that money necessarily to sign a guy to a 1 year, $8, $9, $10 million contract if it requires something like that. That said, there is kind of a workaround that you can make it work. Let's say the Lions have a certain amount of money that they have ear hold for the draft. Their first round picks, their second round picks, They have that honeypot, that rainy day fund. They can dig into that now, and then when June 1st comes and they get the money from Cam Sutton's contract back, they can use that money to sign your draft picks. You can sign your draft picks whenever you want, and a lot of times you get all the way up to training camp. So that money becomes available June 1st. You can use that money for signing your draft picks, and then use the money you were saving for those draft picks right now. It's kind of a way to circumvent it, and they could make it work. The question is, how aggressive are they going to be at the cornerback position now? I don't think that, I would be very surprised if they don't sign at least one guy. And I'm not saying he has to be a starting capable guy. I think they need more depth anyways, but I'm not saying right now like they have to draft a guy with their first round pick or the second round pick. They can make the players that they have work, but they would be wise to at least add one in free agency just to be sure.
Right. The other issue facing the Detroit Lions is if you were going to go cornerback in, say, the first round, you're going to be looking pretty deep on the when you get to take a cornerback. Of the top corners out there currently on draft boards, like the top 4 or 5 are all expected to go in the top 25 picks, I would say. That might also include KoolAid McKinstry, which I know Lions Twitter is rapidly falling in love with, partly because of the name, partly because of where he's been mocked in a few positions. My belief on mocks is always assume that anyone mocked to you is going to go 5 picks before you, especially in the case of McKinstry. And we've talked plenty about this before, Jeremy, about the new premium on the cornerback position and cornerback talent in the NFL draft. Like, I don't think there is a world, unfortunately, where the Lions could get someone like Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, who is probably on the big board at cornerback 1 and quarterback 1 or 2, and probably going to be gone in the top 10 picks, even on a projected quarterback heavy class, on a projected offense heavy top 5 that we expect to see. And like, there are drop-offs, and unfortunately when we start to get down to guys like TJ Tampa and Mike Sainristil, and Mike Sainristil's a slot corner, that doesn't really help you on the outside. And Enos Rakestraw, who might be there on day 2, but again, you're not in a prime position on day 2 either. That's going to require
you're picking in the 60s.
You're picking in the 60s. You are in a position that is not very good for taking cornerbacks where they are projected to be taken. So it means more draft capital needed or potentially reaching for certain players to fill this hole. But this does put Brad Holmes in a position where if he can't find his answer in free agency, he might have to do the thing he's tried to avoid every draft. Draft by need.
He's not going to do it.
No, he's not going to do it. I expect pick 29, assuming it's still pick 29 by this time at the end of April, is not going to be spent on a corner, but on some other player that better suits the talent that he falls in love with, which means if he does take a corner, probably not until late D2, which means your talent isn't going to be at a premium and probably at best needs development, and you won't see that next year.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. That if the Lions do take a corner in this draft, he's not starting right away. I think it's possible they grab one at 20, 30, 29, whatever they're picking at. KoolAid is an interesting one because he went into 2023 as like the top guy and then didn't produce as well as a lot of people thought last year, and then was, I think, completely out of the first round conversation going into and through the combine. I believe he didn't run at the combine, but he ran at his pro day and ran like a 4.48, which is totally good and acceptable. And now he's kind of back into that first round conversation again. So it's on the board, obviously, for first round, but it has to be a guy they love, like, period. If it's not a guy that they love, they're not going to reach for a need, even if it is a need. And to me, cornerback isn't as desperate of a need that they need to reach for it. It's not in a good situation. It can be improved, but knowing Brad Holmes for who he is, he's only going to take a guy if he really loves him and likes the value at that pick. He is not going to say, oh my God, the top 5 corners are off the board. We need to grab one now before it's too late. He's not going to do that.
Right. And the Lions have tried to, the good news is the Lions do have a little bit of a year's experience working with subpar corners. Sometimes, however, it still results in very long passes being completed all the same. So it's going to remain a concern for Lions fans regardless of what happens. Let's talk a little bit about the owners' meetings coming up here. Again, you are down in Florida for the owners' meetings. Not the main reason you went there, but I am starting to dread that might be the main reason you went down there day by day, which means that I need to force you into another vacation at some point. But let's talk about it a little bit. There's plenty coming up here. I have one thing in mind that I do want to talk about, and I'm hoping to get more information for the owners' meeting. But first, let's talk about what you are expecting to hear, what you're looking to hear for, and what we can maybe expect to hear from you when you decide to report in later this week with another podcast from the owners' meetings.
Yeah, there's a couple things because all of the coaches are available during these. AFC one day, NFC the next day, all at the same time. My first kind of plan of action is to talk to some of the AFC coaches and talk about some of the Lions guys, the new Lions guys that are maybe previously from AFC teams like Amik Robertson, DJ Reader, get a little bit of inside information on that. And then later we'll talk to Dan Campbell, we'll talk to Brad Holmes, we'll talk to Rod Wood. We might talk to Sheila Hamp, I should say. And so, we'll get a lot of questions. We'll obviously ask them a little bit about the Cam Sutton situation and what they know and why they acted the way they did. We're almost certainly going to get uniform information, and maybe even by the time you're listening to this, we have some more uniform information. I expect to hear hopefully a release date in the next month or two. But Rod Wood will obviously be asked that. And then, just kind of the normal questions you ask Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell around this time. You talk to them about free agency and their thoughts about it. You talk to them about the draft in a month here. We're only a month away somehow from the draft already. And it's always a really neat time to kind of talk to them in a little bit more of an informal situation. They're not in front of a podium. We're not all sitting, raising our hands or trying to talk over each other. We're just chilling and having a little breakfast together. So it's always a little bit more relaxed, which I think can lead to a little bit more information. So it's actually one of my favorite events to attend, and not just because I get to go to a fun party with expensive food.
What kind of breakfast?
I don't know yet.
Breakfast potatoes?
Probably. I think last time I
Biscuits?
went, which was in Fort Lauderdale, we got just like a breakfast buffet type of thing, but
Belgian
like
waffles.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it's not like we have a waffle maker. We're a little more high class than that.
Look at you, fancy McFancy.
I'm saying this while holding my microphone with my pinky out.
No, again, you're doing the YouTuber thing where it's like, just let me show you my Shure microphone by holding it, even though it has its own cradle. I am curious to see where the owners go, and I know that this is for a vote later on, but we're getting more and more drips of what NFL teams are proposing as far as rule changes coming up here. One of the big ones I know the Lions were involved in, one of the big ones from the week was the hip drop tackle. I find this one particularly fascinating that they want to rule on a penalty for a hip drop tackle, partially because the pushback from the NFLPA has been almost unanimous to not have this as a rule, and yet the pushback from the NFL is very strongly on the side of that they believe that they are doing this for safety, which I find to be ludicrous and stupid. But either way, there seems yes.
Why do you think they're doing it then?
Because they don't want their quarterbacks touched in any reason. Any other? This is a league that is now predicating itself on offensive talent, and unfortunately they have to deal with the reality that at any point in a game of American football, people can get hurt, and what happened this past year is high-profile cases of certain people being hurt during a tackle that can be qualified as hip drops. Maybe it is, they are unsafe, but you're putting it up to a subjective thing, and this feels just as reactive and short-sighted, trying to keep their moneymakers in the game, as it was to say, hey, yeah, we will allow reviews of pass interference. They are reacting purely to what was just a big screeching point and on standalone games.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that argument. It is very interesting for the NFL to be railing against taking out of an unsafe play. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I know how to tackle someone safe. I don't know if there is a safe way to tackle, but like according to them, and I don't think they're lying here, it's like a 20 to 30 to 40 times more likely to occur in an injury with a hip drop tackle than any other kind of tackle. And it is interesting to hear players say, no, we don't want this.
Well, I think
because usually, obviously, they're on the side of you need to take player safety more into consideration. This is an instance in which I actually think they are. The problem is what's the alternative, and that's something that obviously the players have a unique viewpoint on, where coaches and owners may not have that viewpoint of, okay, if we're not allowed to do this, what can we do? And
right, I think
that's a much harder question.
I think the problem for them is like the players have pushed back because they realize so many other tackles, so many other means of making stops have been taken away from them, and they are being pushed to tackle lower and lower, and that means sometimes going around the hips. And it becomes harder and harder at the speed of which the NFL is played to isolate and determine a specific tackle that is within a very specific. It's like epee fencing, man. Like there's only one area you can hit, and it's hard tough to do it when you're going 30 miles an hour out there. Yeah. The other one that I saw that was put forward today was something about. They're still meddling with the touchback, that if it's like you kick it through it, it's going to go out to like the 30 or 35, or I forget the actual thing. But
yeah, it was. So they're essentially trying to adopt the XFL rules, and the change that they just made was that it was originally a touchback would go to the 35. Now it's going to be to the 30. But it everything seems to be pointing in the direction of that one eventually passing. Still hasn't been put up to the vote to the coaches or owners, but that's one, I guess, owners, not the coaches, but seems like that is one that's going to pass. And listen, something needs to change with the kickoff. I'm still of the belief that you just need to get rid of it, but I like the fact that they're on the verge of adopting something that's radically different from what we've seen. And again, like this is, we talked about it when the XFL came back. We talked about it when the USFL came back. Like one of the awesome things about those leagues is they get to try out new things like this. Sure. And it seems like this is another case where they tried out something. The NFL liked it enough where they're probably going to take it.
And that's been proven through history. The NFL usually very resistant to change, and then a league comes along like the AFL or the original USFL in the 80s, right, and they try certain things and it becomes kind of a lab. I think the XFL had really cool ideas on kickoffs. This, however, I think is probably the most contentious, I think, and most radical of changes that we've seen being proposed in this time for some of the rules right now. So I think it's just kind of precarious in that regard.
The only I just want to talk about the one rule change because it's something I've been kind of railing for and on this podcast before, at least during one of the breaks. Someone proposed, I think it was just the competition committee, proposed that they move the game clock to decimal again. Not again, for the first time, which is something that's made a ton of sense. And part of the reasoning for that, and I think another rule change that they were looking for, which relates to the Lions in a way, is you can now, they want to make it so that you can review whether a play gets snapped in time before a quarter ends, before the game clock expires, which obviously did not happen when the Lions played the Packers in week 4 and Jordan Love was allowed to get a playoff when the third quarter clock had expired, which ended up being a big 44-yard gain. So those are two rules that I'm way in favor of. I think decimal timing should be not only with the game clock. I think it should be the play clock for the same reasons, because 0-0, you shouldn't be able to run a play after 0 on the play clock. You shouldn't be able to run a play after 0 on the game clock. What are we doing here? Why are we building in a weird gray area?
And a very inconsistent one, too.
Yes.
An extremely inconsistent one.
So pass that one, coaches and owners. I know you're watching right now. I'm like 20 miles away from you.
20 miles and closing.
Maybe you know what? I'm not going to ask any of the coaches questions tomorrow. I'm just going to be like, hey,
stare at them.
Pass the decimal.
Did you listen to the Pride of Detroit POD cast? Did you listen to the Pride of Detroit POD cast?
That's right.
That's all I've got to say there.
I'll hook you up with Righteous Felon, I promise.
We'll give them 15% off. We give everyone 15% off. That's what we do.
But we won't tell them that we gave it to everybody. We'll say, oh, it's just
for you. Steal. It's got to steal. I'm sure Jerry would like that. Anything you wanted to touch on, Jeremy, that we have covered on PODcast while you've been on vacation?
I don't think so. Just thanks for all the kind words when I came back, for all the misuse and things like that. I do feel a little bit recharged and ready to take on a big week here in Orlando, and then home stretch for the draft.
Yep. Good timing too, because I might disappear here soon myself for several things I need to do. But until then, we're going to wrap up the PODcast. Stay tuned again. Jeremy is, I think we are planning to have something later this week involving you with the owners meeting. So we should have some updates from there. I think our First Bite series will continue. Are we heading to talk about Baltimore?
Maybe.
You're not even going to help tease them that? Okay.
I haven't set anything up yet, so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
That's all we do.
No.
Well, for myself, at Christopher Fed on Twitter, for Jeremy Reisman, at Detroit on Lion. It's time to get out of here. We'll see you Starside.
Recording stopped.
Yep. All right, great.
Proof the recorder was on.
Yes. I should next time I should hit the recorder while the intro is playing, just to really drive it home for people. Can I ask you one question?
Only one.
Not related to football at all.
You better make it a good one. You only get one.
But it is related to something that we have had concerns about in the past, and that is this Shohei Ohtani situation.
Boy.
Which, listen, I live in Dodgers country. I can't say shit on whether or not... I'm sorry, someone had kids there, so I apologize. I'm sorry. I can't say S about whether or not I think Ohtani is using this guy as a fall guy or not, or if he is being taken for a spin. I think the latter is actually more likely. But it has, once again, pair that with today, I believe it was Reese Davis was on the set of an ESPN, and they were doing an ESPN bet promotion, and he used the unfortunate words of basically that it's that some sort of promotion was, quote, risk-free investing, which there's not a lot of laws against promoting gambling in advertising. Advertising for gambling, but that's one of them. That's one of them that you really should not skirt the line on. But I think the 1-2 punch being, once again, that and look, there's a lot across here. I have been working on shows where there is consulting with a sports book about some of these topics. We have DraftKings tickers across Pride of Detroit itself.
Yeah.
It feels like these are scandals that the sports world can no longer avoid, and it's going to become more and more apparent. And we were right smack dab in the middle of it with Jamison Williams, and we talk about these risks all the time. And I just find it fascinating again, mostly as like a guy who's interested in all sports talk and not just the Detroit Lions. So,
I find it fascinating, Chris, because for decades upon decades, commissioners of sports were saying, like, please, don't open the sports betting Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all don't know what's going to happen when that happens. And then it got opened. And now all those people are now singing very different tunes because they're raking in a ton of cash for it. But
I think
what they were saying kind of was true, right? Like, now we're seeing a bunch of like really weird gray areas, not only with players and coaches and people inside the league, but like you said, these sports media that are like tisking people while also stuffing their pockets.
Well,
I think very weird.
The Reese Davis thing that was always something that got really uncomfortable, and it is still really uncomfortable on how, and unfortunately that's where the money is right now. Either you are owned by a league and you are state-sponsored media, or a sports book has a lot of money on you, and let me tell you, they do not like it when you suddenly say, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't gamble. because they're a sponsor and they want their product pushed. And unfortunately, their product on what you talk about is 24/7. For the Ohtani thing, again, I do believe, like, it sounds weird, and ESPN really screwed up the story. For those who don't know, his interpreter was basically found to have embezzled about $4.5 million from Ohtani to an illegal sports book handicapper in California, where sports gambling is still illegal. And these allegations are still kind of ongoing. I don't know if the IRS will get involved on any of this. But if it does come out that Ohtani was using this man to gamble, you are put in a very bad situation. This is your biggest star in the world for a sport. In the world, not America, the world. As big as he is in America, he's even bigger in Japan and Korea. And you've set the bar already. If it comes out, I mean, in baseball, you are allowed to gamble on anything that isn't baseball or softball. Now, you are using an illegal book. But if it comes out at all, they place any money on baseball. You've already set your bar at Pete Rose. Banishment for life. Are you really going to do that to Shohei Ohtani? Or are you going to risk the double standard?
You're going to have to if he's found guilty of any of this
Rob
stuff.
Manfred has no spine. He will absolutely try to do the double standard, but then you'll have, then you'll have all the old people who are like Pete Rose this, Pete Rose that, will come out of the woodwork, and there'll be lawyers and all kinds of nonsense, and it'll tarnish the thing of baseball.
And wasn't it last year? Was it Shams who like reported something about the draft right before the draft happened, and it changed the odds of the draft, and then he turned out to be wrong or something? And Shams is involved, like works for. I don't know if it was Shams. I might be
no. But one of the breaking news reporters, sure.
Yeah, and like they have a partnership or something with this, like. There's a lot of muddied waters here, and it's weird, and I find it particularly gross, which is why I don't participate in sports gambling at all. Although, listen, full disclosure here, some people on our staff are getting, are taking stuff from DraftKings for sponsored posts that we do on the website. I don't know if any DraftKings ads ever run on our podcast feed, but I've never done a live read. I'm not pocketing any of that money, but I have in the past. So
yeah, and
my hands are not completely clean.
No one's is. I think that's the issue. I think that's part of it. It's the reality of it, because the alternative is starvation and not bringing you content. That just shows you how far the grip is. But again, I can't, in good conscience, sit here and put out of my mind the fact that I saw that within remember when all those states legalized? Like, we had a whole swath of states legalize all at once after the federal, I don't know if it was a law or a mandate or something, was struck down.
Right.
And I believe that next year, suicide from gambling-related issues rose 7%.
Yeah.
Now, you can't save everyone. Now, you have personal responsibility and everything in it, but I do think there is collective responsibility too. That's what it means to live in a society that cares for everyone, and we should care for everyone instead of just being like bloodless predators swimming around all in the same pond. I am a Catholic. I believe in taking care of my neighbor.
There are legitimate questions to raise whether sports gambling being legal is a net positive or net negative in the world. And then, yes, there is a question of whether it's the government or our responsibility to, if we determine it's a net negative, to just take it out of people's hands. Those are all tough debates to have and no clear answers to have, but I decide not to participate in that realm of sports because, one, it doesn't interest me. Two, I know it's a losing battle. Three, because I know people who have had their lives changed by gambling and don't want to see that for me or anyone that I'm close to.
Yeah. And on the flip side, for me, like, I place a bet maybe like once or twice a year. I usually wait until I hit on something I know is a lock and fire off. I also have a lot of friends who are professional gamblers who live in Vegas, who I've worked with in the industry for the past 6 years or so. Their entire life is gambling, and they are a different breed. They're above a lot of you in various ways. I know a man who, even though he lost 47% of his bets, still made six figures. Like, he's like, it's a different breed. It's like trading stock in a lot of ways, but also it requires a financial literacy, a risk literacy that I just can't. Like, there's a reason why we talk about a divide between sharps and squares in Vegas. And I think a lot more people think they're closer to sharp than they really are, and that's the risk. And sometimes these guys also then say things about responsibility that I don't like either. But, like, I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. Like, I would rather not have gambling go away. I'd still like there be a place where I can gamble on sports, but, like, we don't get to do our stuff without gambling's money being thrown into it. But this right now, it gets scary the more scandals keep coming out.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, like, derail this very much.
No, I think that's an interesting conversation to have. I don't know if everyone's interested in it, but I am. I think it's fascinating. But I think I do probably have to get going here.
Yes. I do need to take care of a couple things as well. So let me see. I don't think we're going to raid anyone. Actually, we are.
A couple more alerts, right?
Yes, we have a couple more alerts. And then I'm not logged into POD. Are you able to log in? Because I would like to go raid Bridget Case.
Yes. I am currently logged into the chat. I wonder, can I do commands from...
Yes, you can.
Is it exclamation point raid or is it backslash raid?
Backslash raid. Anyway, let me get to the other alerts here real quick before you do that. Charizard Boner, that is 13 owner.
That's right, 13
oner. 20 months with the word boner. David Renfrit, 33 months, says Cam on the Lamb Sutton. Darth Hippo, 39 months. Katie from Michigan, 42 months. Seems as if I just hit a sub-anniversary. Drew Falcon, Prime, 16 months. Joshua Mercer gave us 50 bits saying it also takes the integrity out of sports. I have zero doubt games are being set up for Vegas sports books. They need to get rid of legal sports betting. The moment they even propose gambling in WWE is the moment I knew this whole situation is shady. Cheer 50. I actually knew a guy who makes good money betting on WWE. It's like betting on the Oscars. I know a guy who also makes good money betting on the Oscars. We had a guest on the radio the other week giving out Oscar picks, and he was like 80%. Mostly because he just messed up with Killers of the Flower Moon. But I don't think these games are set up for the Vegas books, but like there's enough people trying to get their own edges that they don't. The books have to be upright. It's all the other people who are not upright, though.
The players, the refs.
Or like guys who want to place their own stuff, like that Alabama coach.
Right.
Anyway, Joshua Mercer also gave us another 50-bit. Just wait until the scandals come out that organizations in Vegas have been setting up and altering outcomes of sporting events. It's only a matter of when, not if, MO. Again, I don't think it's the books themselves. They have too much money to lose. They have too much money to lose rigging these things themselves, and they take action regardless of what side you pick. It's the other parties involved that you should be wary about. It's the sharps, it's syndicates, it's all kinds of stuff. Anyway, let me see if I can raid from... No, it makes me log in on that one. Are you able to send us over there, Jeremy?
Let me see. Did that do anything?
No, I think you have to backslash it.
Oh, I thought you said exclamation point.
No, I said backslash.
Grr. Raid. What?
There it goes.
Oh, it worked?
Yeah, it worked.
Okay. I don't even see it. All it says is this channel has follower. Oh. Okay. All right. Well, last time we rated Bridget, it came right off the news of them cutting Keenan Allen, and she was devastated. So hopefully this one goes a little better.
I hate where he landed too. Hate it.
Or traded? He got traded, right? Whatever.
To the Bears, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, already throwing with Caleb Williams too.
Don't do it, Chris.
I'm not.
Don't
I'm
do
not.
it.
I'm just
Don't
waiting
do
for the
it.
raid.
Okay. I heard there was more Caleb talk last week.
They're the ones starting it, not me.
I can't hit the raid now button. So
Why is Ryan allowed to have Malik Willis, but I can't have
okay?
this?
All right.
Caleb Willis. Yes, McDonald's is very good. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, you're doing it. All right. I can't do it from here.
I can't do it either. I'm just assuming the countdown's going to hit 0 and it's going to go.
Oh, okay.
I
should probably
can't
have
do
the stream
crap.
up at some point to confirm or deny whether that is or has happened.
Well, I'm about to find out.
All right, it happened, which means
It happened.
still
Hello,
live on
YouTube. Yeah, we're still here. So we're going to just shut it down, YouTube, once it's been confirmed. We are rating our friend Bridget Case. There it is. There it is right there.
YouTube love you guys. I didn't see you
Yep.